Over the last 9 videos, we've worked through the craft chain, the idea, the genre, the structure, the art, the world, the characters, and the prose. That chain isn't finished, and we've still got editing and publishing and marketing and a lot more to come. But we are at the point where the writing is done and you've got your first draft. You should stop a second and celebrate that. Most people say they've got a great idea for a book and never get to this point. They procrastinate, they plan forever, they never finish. You've finished, but your draft is not yet a book. Today I want to talk about what that first draft actually is, why it matters more than you think, and the psychological moments along the way that will carry you into what comes next. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Andy Guile. I'm an independent author and publisher. I've got one book finished, a second one drafted, and a free novella over at akguile.com. I write under the pen name AK Guile, and I'm not claiming to be an expert here. I'm just a bloke sharing what's working for me as I learn this. So if you find something useful here, do me a favour, please like and subscribe, comment, and help me grow this channel. Now, we covered the steps to get to this point in previous videos. If you haven't seen them, the playlist is there. Go and have a look and come back to this one. But as a quick recap, we take an idea, we develop a story, we build a plan, we create our arcs, our acts, our chapters, our scenes, and our beats. And we write the prose beat by beat, scene by scene, chapter by chapter, tidying as we go, light touch editing along the way, catching the obvious stuff, so at the end of each chapter, we've got something resembling clean. Then one day, you write the last beat, you tidy the last scene, and you've got a draft. But you still haven't got a book. When I finished the first draft of the list, I generally thought this was going to be perfect, beautiful, a bit of tidying and straight to publish. All that discipline behind it, the plan, the structure, the beats, the tidying as I went, I generally thought I'd be looking at something close to a finished book. I wasn't even close. The holes showed up everywhere. Typos I'd missed despite the tidying, things that didn't quite link, contradictions because I'd written something in March and written something else in July, and the two things didn't agree. Some chapters ran long, some ran short. The pace drifted in places I hadn't noticed from the inside. Now, if you think about that, that has to be normal, because the draft gets built in pieces, chapter by chapter, against a plan. You're never reading it as a story while you're writing it. You're assembling parts that are supposed to add up to a whole. So of course there are gaps, and the plan itself is just a theory. No plan survives first contact. Writing a book is no different. I know that when I'm writing, I drift from the plan as the moment takes me. Sometimes that produces something better than the plan had. Sometimes it means I've drifted too far and lost direction. You don't find that out until you read the whole thing as one coherent story. So for me, the first draft is the first proof point. Have I got the bones of a good story here? Not a finished book, not published prose, just the bones. My first draft of the list came in at around 110,000 words. The final published book was about 90,000. That's the distance between a draft and a book. There's a long way to go, but you refine and you tune over time. The draft is a starting point. The house is currently standing at 150,000 words and is waiting for its first read. Once I get the draft in my hand, the first thing I do to celebrate the moment is I turn it into a fake book. I build it as an ebook. I mock up a front cover in Midjourney, something rough, just enough to look real. Then I load it into my Kindle, and there it is, a book cover, my name on it, sitting on my Kindle next to Stephen King and Val McDermid and all the other authors I respect, looking exactly like their books. It's not a book, it's a draft, but it looks like a book, and that moment is special. There's another way to do this if I'm planning for the house. You can load the whole thing up into your KDP account and order a proof copy. There's a proof copy for the list. 2 or 3 days later, you're holding a physical printed book, your draft with a cover, looking like a real book in your hand. And that becomes a different level again. So whether you put it on your Kindle or print the manuscript on your home printer or order a proof copy from Amazon, it doesn't cost much. And these are generally great psychological moments. You've taken an idea, you've taken it through the whole chain, and now you're holding something that looks and feels like a book. Stop and enjoy that because it's well earned. And then once you've done that, put it in a drawer and forget about it. Don't read it straight away. Go and do something else for a couple of weeks. The book just sits there on the Kindle like any other book you've bought and not got to yet. And the reason for the wait, when I finish the draft, the words are still fresh in my mind. They're still mine. I can recite half of them. If I read it straight away, I read what I meant to write, not what's actually on the page. And the gap is the point. I need enough distance that the book starts to feel like someone else's. Then when the time is right, I open it and I read it like a reader. Not as the author, not as the editor. I'm not looking for typos, I'm not fixing lines. I'm reading it the way someone reads a book they picked up because the cover looked interesting. That's the only job on this read. Does it work as a story? And it's amazing what you find. The big one is whether the plan held together. Does the story work end to end? Does the arc pay off? Do the parts add up to the whole? The other thing you find is pace, and pace is a psychological thing too. A longer chapter tends to slow you down to set a scene. Shorter chapters accelerate the pace towards something. You can feel it as a reader, but when you're writing inside it, you can't get that perspective. You're just ways too close. In the list, I ended up splitting chapters. The worst one became 3 chapters because I'd overloaded it with scenes and scene breaks that didn't need to be there. I brought it right back down to be true to what I was trying to achieve with the writing style of that particular book. I wouldn't have seen that from the inside. I only saw it as a reader. I don't apply rules to chapter length. I don't have a target word count. A long chapter can be exactly right. A run of short chapters can be exactly right. The only test is whether the pace feels right as you read it. Not a formula, just the reading experience. So I read the whole thing, and only when I've been through it once, end to end, as a reader, do I go back in, finding the areas where the draft drifted from the plan, where the pace sagged, where something didn't land quite right. But if I have a draft that I believe holds together as a story, that belief becomes the thing. I didn't have that belief when I typed the last line. Now I've got it. The belief matters because what comes next is hard. Creating an idea, developing a synopsis, building the world, writing the prose, that's all hard work. But it's enjoyable hard work. It's creative. You're building something. Editing is different. You're criticizing your own work. You're taking feedback from somebody else. You're going back into a cycle you've already been in and pulling it apart. I find that really, really, really hard. And I procrastinate all over the place, avoiding the editing round till I'm absolutely forced to do it. But the moment of holding the draft, reading it as a reader and thinking, wow, there's something here. I've actually got the makings of a book. It's what carries you forward because now you want to make what you've got better. If you don't take that moment of celebration, you don't have the full energy to do a proper job on the edit. You'll skip things, you'll rush, and your final product is not what you want it to be. The celebration isn't a reward, it's fuel for the next phase. And the next phase is the hardest part of the process. Well, it is for me anyway. So what's the practical takeaway this week? Finish the draft. Get to the last line, even when it's rough, even when you can see the problems. Most people don't get there, and you did, and that matters, and celebrate it. Once you've got that draft, make it a real book. Put it on your Kindle, print it on your printer, or do what I'm thinking of doing next and ordering a proof copy from Amazon. It doesn't cost a lot, and these moments are worth having. Then walk away, give it a fortnight, come back and read it as a reader. Next week, we're going to get into the part that I find the hardest, the editing process, how I do it, whether you should be using a professional editor or doing it yourself. And a lot of that comes down to cost and time. We'll get into all of that. But that's it for today. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one, and take care.